coming out with just a week and a half to go before Election Day.
Yeah, Democratic candidate Zoran Mamdani going after former Governor Andrew Cuomo for comments he made on a radio show questioning how Mamdani would handle a, quote, 9/11 style attack on the city. Governor Hochul, who has endorsed Mamdani, also blasting those comments, calling them Islamophobic and fear-mongering.
All right, all while the big endorsement from Mayor Adams for Cuomo, early voting, and we saw them sitting together for the game, knew kind of this was going to happen, but early voting starts tomorrow, like it's tomorrow. So the question now is, does any of this that's going on right now really make a difference? Well, Eyewitness News reporter Jaysha Patel is outside City Hall. And Jaysha, as we've all seen and you know, there's nothing boring about any mayoral race, and this one certainly is not boring.
Yeah, Charlene, Pedro, Sam, good morning. I think you guys worded it right. The claws have definitely come out during this race. And basically, like you mentioned, Mayor Adams endorsed Cuomo. That was a big one yesterday. And this morning, we've heard from Curtis Sliwa. We're also expecting to hear from Zoran Mamdani later this afternoon around 1 p.m. But this morning, Sliwa spoke, and he once again said he is not dropping out of this race. He said he is voting at 10 a.m. tomorrow at the Museum of Natural History to put the final nail in the coffin to calls for him to drop out. He called Cuomo and Adams corrupt this morning, and yesterday Mamdani also spoke about that big endorsement.
This is people power. This is not the power of billionaires and insiders. And yesterday that was brought home to all of us when we saw that the two corrupt birds who fly together, Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo. And I heard them talking about family, oh, we're family. I said, could this be the sixth family of organized crime that has just come together? The Adams-Cuomo crime family?
Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo are two illustrations of the same broken politics. And today will be an illustration for New Yorkers of the fact that Eric Adams' record is Andrew Cuomo's agenda.
Yesterday, Mayor Eric Adams endorsed Andrew Cuomo at an event in East Harlem, and Adams referenced his past statements about Cuomo, saying sometimes brothers fight. He said they both have called each other names, but now it was time to fight for family. Adams, of course, ended his re-election campaign last month, and rumors started swirling that he was going to endorse Cuomo after they were seen together at a Knicks game after the mayoral debate earlier this week.
Am I angry that I'm not the one taking down Zoran, the socialist and the communist? You're darn right I am. But you know what? The city means more to me than anything. And it is time.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate everybody being here. Looks like we're about to have an elected commie over there in New York City, which is kind of unfathomable when you think about it. Oh, my goodness. All right, I'll make sure everybody can hear me just fine. Hello to everyone on Twitch and right here on YouTube. Welcome. Appreciate everybody being here. Of course, we always have the comment bar open. If you have any comments, feel free to comment accordingly. I know this is kind of a different time for me, but it seemed like it worked out. So I was like, why not? Let's go ahead and let's go with it. So, all right. If there's any questions as far as sound or whatever, go ahead and put it in the comment bar. Hello to American Nana. Thank you for being here. And you also like the time. Great. I'm glad to hear that. And hey, Matt, it's good to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here. I'll try to get to the comments as time allows. But I do have a lot of territory that I want to cover. So without further ado, make sure I get everything set the way it should be set up, and we will get right into it. Let me go ahead and start off. If you are new to the program, welcome. I am J.R. Dukes. This, of course, is the home of the free-minded Patriots. This is where the woke choke, the truth prevails, and the battles for your freedoms are fought and won. That's what I'm here for. You can always find me right here on YouTube at the intersection of justice and transparency. Otherwise, it's always at JR Dukes. And of course, on X, it's Reach JR Dukes. Pretty easy peasy. If you ever forget, always remember my website is www.jrdukes.com. And you can always find me with that address. So, Patriots, welcome back to the show. Of course, it's a beautiful Saturday night. And let me tell you, the left is losing. They're losing their collective mind. You think they have went nuts before? You think Donald Trump has been driving them literally insane since what, 2016, I guess, somewhere around there? It is hitting overdrive every single day. It seems like these people are just really, they have this Trump derangement syndrome, and it is getting worse. Now, imagine this. President Donald Trump, out of his own pocket and in collaboration with his friends, is giving the American people a brand new ballroom in the great White House. No taxpayer money, no waste, no corruption, no problem, right? Well, maybe. Just pure class, pride, and restoration in American greatness. And amen to that, right? And what's the reaction of the so-called woke media? It's outrage, absolute outrage, and the fake outrage is everywhere. It's palatable. It is nothing but fake outrage. When you see this one video I got of a CNN anchor, and you can see the scowl on her face, just hating to see Donald Trump succeed, even though that means the American people are succeeding. That it's almost like we're in the Twilight Zone. The same people who cheer for billions to be shipped overseas to help other people are somehow furious that the people's house, that means your house, my house, the White House, is being beautified for free. These people have a clear-cut case of Trump derangement syndrome, otherwise known as TDS. They actually should put that in the DSM-4. I'm just saying, if it was up to me, it would definitely be added because it is an applicable affliction that is affecting so many fellow Americans today. It's extremely, extremely sad. Obviously, these folks would rather see that the White House crumble than admit that Donald Trump is doing something good for this country. Meanwhile, in the great city of New York City, and by the way, I've been there several times. It is a beautiful city. To my surprise, the people there are very friendly. I enjoyed every visit that I've made to New York City. It definitely was not what I expected. I will tell you, though, that the same woke mob is celebrating the rise of a Muslim socialist. I can't even get my mind around this. After 9/11, where you had a group of Muslims from, I guess, Saudi Arabia, actually attack our country and knock down the World Trade Centers, among other terrorist activities that day, we're on the precipice of electing a Muslim to be mayor of New York City. I have nothing against Muslims, ladies and gentlemen. It's just, this is America. This is a Christian country. The irony, the craziness cannot be overstated. Yes, it's my opinion, but it is the way I see it. You really just can't make this up. A city that's been brought to its knees by crime, corruption, and chaos is about to hand the keys to the city to someone who thinks socialism is salvation. Folks, it doesn't have to be this way. The people that live in New York City can get out right now and make a different choice before it is too late. It's just incredible how far left the radical left is going, and there's no end in sight. These people hate success. They hate beauty. They hate patriotism. And most of all, they hate our great president, Donald John Trump, because he exposes them every single day by simply getting things done. So tonight, we're going to cut through the noise. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump's White House renovation and some of the most current news pertaining to the same. We're going to get to the truth behind this fake outrage. The showdown with Canada, we're going to talk about that. We talked about that yesterday. There's been some developing events that I want to highlight and point out. Now, I took the time to look up the video and to show it to you in its entirety. Yet other people that are paid to be a talking head, if you will, they apparently did not. They just simply were not able to answer questions about this. But I can assure you tonight, I'm going to answer the questions pertaining to Ronald Reagan and exactly what he believed as far as tariffs are concerned. And of course, we're going to try to wrap it all in with, I got some comments to make about Venezuela and exactly what I believe President Donald Trump is doing. This is a ongoing, serious developing story. And all I can tell you is I think it's going to be good news for the country as a whole. Because while the woke mob melts down, we're going to continue to stand up and be counted accordingly. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get into it. All right, let me switch over to our screen right here so we got the correct one going. All right, here we go. All right, out of the New York Post, we are going to take a quick look at this story here that, and this is today from the New York Post. J.D. Vance slams Zohan Madami for making his auntie the real victim of 9/11. Really? Isn't that interesting, huh? Vice President J.D. Vance criticized New York City's mayoral candidate Zohan Madami on Saturday, writing on X that according to the Democrat, quote unquote, the real victim of 9/11 was his aunt. What? His aunt? Vance made the remark as early voting began Saturday in New York City, where Madami, the front runner in the race, I almost can't get used to saying that, folks, the front runner in the race. And by the way, I only think this guy has been here since like 2017, just FYI, where Madami, the front runner in the race, is trying to fend off challengers Andrew Cuomo and Chris how do you say his last name? Slywell, I think so you say, or Slua, whatever. His name's Curtis. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her job. Madami said in a clip of the Friday campaign event that Vance shared. According to Zohan, the real victim was his auntie who somehow allegedly got bad looks on the subway, according to Vice President Vance. Madami also said Friday that I want to speak to the Muslim who works for our city, whether they teach in our schools or walk the beat for NYPD, New Yorkers who all make daily sacrifice for the city they call home, only to see their leaders spit in their face. I want to speak to every child who grows up here, marked as the other, who is randomly selected in a way that never quite feels random, who feels that they carry a stain that can never be cleaned. Hold on a second. I think I got a tear right here. Oh, can you imagine this? You got this idiot already telling people you're victims. How many times have I talked about this on this program, that this victim nonsense has to stop? I don't care what the color of your skin is. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your mom and dad was or your great grandparents. I don't care if you came over here as an immigrant. I don't care if you came over here as a slave. It does not matter. It does not matter. And these type of comments from politicians is one of the many things that needs to be changed about America. It's really just that simple. And I'm sick of hearing about this victimhood and everybody's a victim and that somehow America owes you something, or worse than that is somehow America is so evil to its core that it must be destroyed and then rebuilt accordingly. Come on, are you kidding me? When I hear that, it just gets my blood boiling, and it's so wrong, and it's about time someone says it. I've said it many times here on my program. When you look like me and someone brings a topic up like this or brings up race, most of us just kind of say nothing. We just kind of go back into our shell and remain quiet. But of course, that doesn't apply to me because I will not be quiet as long as the Lord gives me a voice and my computer keeps working. It's really just that simple. I will tell you what we all know to be true. And that is, these type of comments are wrong. They are just comments where he's trying to basically play on people's fears that are non-existent. To tell people, again, you are a victim, you were owed something. And ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the risk in a true democracy, is when people realize they can vote themselves the treasury, it's over with. And it's not me that says that. I believe it was Plato or one of the other great thinkers in history that said that. Now, of course, we are a constitutional republic, so I know how it is. I'm going to get emails. Hey, we're a constitutional republic. I get that. What I'm telling you is we all need to be victors and not victims. We need to teach our kids and remind ourselves that we are all brothers and sisters in Christ, period. Someone may be darker, someone may be lighter, someone may look this way or that way. I don't care. We're all brothers and sisters in Christ. We all come from Adam and Eve. We are all made in God's image, period. Deal with it. Put your big boy pants on, your big girl pants on. Get over your hurt feelings and take advantage of all the blessings God has given each and every one of us. We all won the lottery just being alive. And we definitely won the lottery being born and being here in a great country that the United States is. I have said many times again that I bleed red, white, and blue. I love this country. This is a great country. And you know what? I might not have been dealt the best hand in life, but I've been dealt a fair hand. And it's just that simple. Learn to take responsibility for yourself. Teach your children, your family, the same values. If something happens, it's not someone else's fault. It's not slavery's fault. It's not the government's fault. It's not the Czech did whatever, or the Yang did this, and the whatever did this, and that did something different. It doesn't matter. It's your fault if you don't succeed. It's just that simple. And choose to be happy every day. These are not difficult things to understand. And that's one of the reasons I believe this outrages Vice President Vance, as it does me. Continuing on here quickly. Growing up in the shadow of 9/11, I have known what it means to live with an undercurrent of suspicion in the city, Mamdani said. Oh, goodness. Fox News Digital has reached out to the Mamdani campaign for reaction to Vance's comments. Mamdani accused Cuomo this week of Islamic rhetoric. Islamic phobic rhetoric after the former governor joined a radio show, and his host speculated that Mamdani would be, quote, cheering, end quote, if New York City faced another 9/11 attack. During an appearance on WABC, SIDS and Friends in the Morning on Thursday, Cuomo questioned Mamdani's ability to lead the city through a crisis situation. Yeah, you think? Look at this guy right here. Man, he's got that smile most of the time, not necessarily in that picture, but he's a populist, right? Let's call it what it is. That's the way he tries to portray himself. This guy's a dangerous man, ladies and gentlemen. It is the reality that we're living in. Any given moment, there's a crisis, and people's lives are at stake. God forbid there's another 9/11. Can you imagine Mamdani in the seat? Cuomo asked host Sid Rosenberg. I think that is I think that's a true comment. I definitely think that's something to be concerned with, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not the only one expressing concern. Lots of people online are expressing concern. We have right here Megyn Kelly. It says, breaking, Megyn Kelly urges Republican New Yorkers to vote for Andrew Cuomo and save New York City from communism. Quote, there is no choice right now. You're going to have to vote Cuomo. Curtis Slywell, I respect, but he just wasn't able to get it done. His numbers are just too low. I agree. Let's listen to it for ourselves for just a quick second. We'll talk about it.
There's no choice right now. You're going to have to vote Cuomo. I'm sorry. I with all due respect to Curtis Lewa, I can't stand Cuomo, but Curtis can't win. And we're now so tight in terms of the election. You got to get real. How are we going to elect this guy, this imam-loving, this terror-loving, imam-loving Mamdani as the next mayor of New York? Curtis Lewa, I respect. It's just he wasn't able to get it done. His numbers are too low. He's not a realistic candidate. That's the truth. So that's
the hard facts. That's just the way it is. And I agree with what she has to say. There's all kinds of comments about it below this particular posting. I like the guy. I think Curtis is a good man. He's been there in New York his entire life. It's just not going to happen.
Did you see today's poll? In a one-on-one contest between me and Zorhan, I'm at 41%. I'm beating Cuomo. This is part of the Sliwa surge because I won both debates.
But the problem is it's not a one-on-one race. And while we're talking about it, I want to mention that. That's one of the reasons why, in case you don't know, that's one of the reasons why we have this issue that's going on right now in New York City. And I believe the same type of rules and laws are applicable in Alaska, like with Sarah Palin and some other people that have kind of lost elections that we didn't figure they would lose. New York City has this weird voting apparatus, and I'll be making videos on this sometime soon because we're going to talk about it more in depth. But basically, under the guise of saving money and not having to have a runoff election, when you vote in New York State, you don't just vote for one person that you want in a particular job. You pick a slate of candidates. What's your first choice, your second choice, and so on. And the problem with that is human nature is such that when there's many choices, your attitude will be like, there's no way in the world I would vote for candidate number 2, for example. However, if there was a legitimate runoff election and only 2 candidates were facing each other, it's a different ball game. It's a different story. And it's really just that simple. If you want to know why these type of people are getting through the cracks, so to speak, in New York City, that's the reason why. Also, just to touch on it loosely, there is a thing in New York State where they pay for elections through public funds. Once you get a minimum amount to qualify, they multiply it, I think, by a factor of 8, if you can imagine that. And sadly, this type of election laws, these types of rules will simply continue to foster more candidates like this Madame, and we don't want that. We do not want that. That's what they got going on in Europe right now. It is literally ruining and destroying Europe. You right now have, I believe it's 5 or 6% of the population in the United Kingdom are Muslims. If you were in London right now, you would hear blaring through the streets there in London the call to prayer 5 times a day. Can you believe that? Just unbelievable. And again, save me the emails and the comments. I really don't care what anybody thinks about my opinion of Muslim people. I love all people. But like President Trump said, that's what makes every country beautiful, is it has its own roots, its own traditions. The United States is a Christian country, and God willing, it will always be a Christian country, period. End of story. And don't let anybody tell you any different, ladies and gentlemen. Full stop. Let's take a look at the post by Laura Loomer. Madame admits his goal for New York City is a Muslim takeover of New York. For those of you who are accusing Madame critics of Islamic phobia, just take a listen to his own words. He literally says he ran for office so that he can increase the number of Muslims in America who are registered to vote so he can make America more Islamic. I guess his slogan is Make America Islamic, right? Here, he is bragging about a staggering 1 million Muslims live in New York City. Can you imagine that? 1 million Muslims have been let in to New York City post 9/11. And now 200,000 of those Muslims are registered to vote Democratic. This is insane. This is insane. This reminds me of what the former prime minister of Germany did, that Angela Merkel. She let in 2 to 2.5 million Muslims that came from Syria, or at least in that particular region right there. And that's one of the reasons that Europe has the problems they have today, especially Great Britain and the country of Germany. Outrageous, an insult. It needs to stop. Notice how they emphasize the fact that they are Muslim voters, not American voters, because their goal is to have a complete and total Islamic takeover until every single city in America is majority Muslim and the American people are living under Sharia law. Islamophobia is a fake word made up to enslave the American people and destroy the West. Every New Yorker needs to see this video. And to this, folks, we're about to listen to the video. I can only say amen and amen to that. They say words like Islamophobia because they want to scare you from speaking out. In other words, like I said earlier, when you're faced with the accusation that somehow you're a racist, that somehow you're a bigot, that somehow you're a bad person, most of us just simply shut up. We go back into our turtle shell, so to speak, and we can't do that. This is a very serious, clear, and present danger to our country. And I can't really say it any more clear than that. That's not an overstatement. Let's take a quick listen to Loomer's video, and then we will talk about it.
Alhamdulillah, there are 1 million Muslims in this city. 200,000 of us are registered to vote as Democrats. In the last election, only 7% of us voted. Now, I will not blame anyone because often it feels like there isn't much to vote for. But this June 24th, With early voting starting tomorrow, it is an opportunity for us to show that Muslims don't just belong in New York City, we also belong in City Hall. Because yesterday I stood on the debate and Andrew Cuomo stood next to me. And here was a man who was the governor for a decade, and he could not name a single mosque he had ever visited. He could not name it because he does not care.
Well, and the reason he doesn't care is because we don't care either. At least I don't care. This is a Christian country. It's not a Muslim country, Mr. Moldami. It's just that simple. If you guys agree or disagree, please, I am interested in your thoughts. Put in the comments below, and I will get to it at some point during this broadcast. Now, here's a video I'll come across that I have to tell you, I think is probably one of the best AI-generated political videos ever. Matter of fact, forget the AI. It's just funny, and it's right on spot. So let's take a look at it here. This is Andrew Cuomo's campaign video that he just posted, I believe, today. He deleted it, but people were able to pick it back up. But they call this video Criminals for Zoran Madami. I think you guys are going to enjoy looking at this. It features a black man in a kefish, shoplifting, whatever, one guy that's an abuser, a trespasser, a trafficker, a drug dealer, and a drunk driver, all declaring their support for Madami. So let's take a peek at this. I think you will find it entertaining. Without further ado.
Zoran Mamdani's opponents want you to believe he's an inexperienced radical.
And this is AI generated, by the way.
More dangerous. But what do his actual supporters think?
Mamdani isn't crazy.
He's just trying to even the playing field.
You know, give everyone a fair shot. Sure, he said multiple times we need to defund the police, but that was just a metaphor.
And yes, he did say crime is a social construct. But that was also a metaphor.
His main backer, the Democratic Socialists' ideas are common sense, such as
decriminalizing misdemeanors, like shoplifting.
Guy turns into a shoplifter.
Assault. Trespassing. Prostitution.
And drunk driving.
Oh my goodness.
With plans to decriminalize all drugs, Mamdani will be a job creator for drug dealers.
Instead of helping us homeless get off the streets and into the mental health facilities we need, he wants to give us safe injection sites to do crack and let us sleep in subway carts.
And remember, just for disclosure and to comply with YouTube rules, this is AI generated. This is not real. So I just want to make sure I make that announcement again.
These are actual policies Mamdani and the DSA want to implement on day one. When a woman's being domestically abused, she finally won't have to deal with some pesky cop to arrest the abuser, but now a social worker to help, kumbaya the situation.
Breathe in, breathe out.
That's the social
Mamdani
worker.
is finally lowering jail sentences. Guilty!
But Mamdani says you're free to go.
Who cares if legalizing prostitution statistically leads to an increase for sex trafficking of women and young girls by 70%?
You can't have safety without equality.
for unlawful abiding citizens like us, globalize the intifada.
I'm a criminal. I'm a criminal. I'm a criminal.
I'm a criminal.
Yep. I'm a criminal.
For Zoran.
For Zoran Mamdani.
He's letting them out. Look at that.
I didn't have a real job until I was 30, but sure, give me the keys to the city. What's the worst that can happen?
Oh, God, this is terrible. It's funny. I would argue it's accurate. I think it's pretty good. I think this was a well put together ad. I want to, again, just make sure that I label accordingly AI generated, just so we're very clear about it. Interesting, huh? I thought it was pretty spot on. All right, now let's take a quick look together. I've told you before how CNN tries to act in a whole list of things. All right, and this has to do, of course, with the White House. We're going to switch gears, take a hard turn into the issues that are going on right now with this fake outrage of the left. And I can tell you that CNN is among the top that loves to act like they're outraged, and that what Donald Trump is doing is borderline criminal. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous through and through, but it has to be discussed, and we have to call it out for what it is. So let's take a peek at part of this together. We're not going to watch this whole clip, but I do want to take a peek at the beginning here and watch this news anchor's face as Casey Hunt. Man, she got a serious case of Trump derangement syndrome.
4 p.m. here in Washington. Do you know where your White House is?
We are proud to announce that the construction of the new White House Ballroom will begin.
It'll be built over on the east side, and it will be beautiful.
The White House Ballroom will be substantially separated from the main building of the White House.
It won't interfere with the current building. It'll be near it, but not touching it, and pays total respect to the existing building, which I'm the biggest fan of. Sir, this is the White House. You're the President of the United States. You can do anything you want. And we did something that was really appropriate to the White House. You probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh, that's music to my ears. I love that sound. It's a very special building, and we are taking care of it. But if I get money from our country, I'll do something nice with it, like give it to charity or give it to the White House while we restore the White House. And we're doing a great job in the White House. As you know, the ballroom is under construction. We determined that really knocking it down, trying to use a little section. You know, the East Wing was not much. There was not much left from the original. It was never thought of as being much. It was a very small building. In order to do it properly, we had to take down the existing structure.
With any construction project, changes come.
Changes come. Here they are. Live pictures of the White House.
You can tell she's just thrilled to death, right? You have a president that has arranged for us to get a $300 to $400 million addition, upgrade, if you will, to the White House. And somehow she acts like that history has been ruined. I'm not going to bore you with the details of the long list of presidents that have made substantial changes to the White House. As a matter of fact, I believe Barack Obama, didn't he build like a $300 million-ish addition to the White House? And all that was done with some type of cabling work and a basketball court. But of course, to these woke loons, it doesn't matter.
White House, your White House, the entire East Wing, now gone.
Yeah, your White House.
Reduced to rubble to make way for President Trump's new ballroom. And now we're getting our first look from space. These new satellite images just in to CNN. The picture on the left showing the White House in October of last year. The picture on the right is from today. You can see on the right the demolition of the East.
Can y'all see that right there? What she's saying is right here in the center of your screen. I don't know if you can see it on the kind of the center to the right as you're facing it. This section right here versus the same place is gone. I mean, the whole East Wing is been demolished. That's the plan.
Wing.
Deal with it.
And this image sent to CNN from a passenger on a flight
That's a good shot
leaving
of it,
the nation's capital today. Again, very clear to see. Today, the administration vigorously defending the project and its price tag, because as the East Wing is coming down, we are learning that the price is going up from $250 million, then $200 million. The president now saying it's going to be more like $300 million. That is, of course, more than 650 times the average cost of a house in the United States.
Yeah, but she's also forgetting to mention, I'm sure it just slipped her mind. What do y'all think? I'm sure it's just accidental and coincidental, but it's not costing you or me anything.
The press secretary today, again, pledging that taxpayers will not be on the hook for the bill.
We have released the full list of donors thus far. Perhaps there will be more people who want to generously contribute to this project. And the president, yes.
Well, the fact of the matter is, with an individual, and remember this too, so you can be more sympathetic to people. All right, as you see individuals that are sick and suffering with TDS, one of the hallmarks of this condition is they have lost their ability to reason or to have a reasonable thought. And yes, I'm being tongue-in-cheek, but I am very serious. The individuals that suffer with it, like these reporters do, and this particular lady that we were just talking about on CNN, They literally are not able to see anything good in anything President Trump does, no matter what it is. He's been settling wars, what, 8, 9 wars, something like that. As of right now, he's getting us a free upgrade that's needed in the White House, and these people, all they can do is complain and moan, and it's really, really ridiculous. I come across this video of this young lady here. I think this woman here nailed it. Let's take a peek and then we'll talk about it.
I'm so sick of all this fake outrage. You do not care that Donald Trump is changing the White House. You just care that it's Donald Trump. Yeah. Not a penny of taxpayer dollars is being used to fund that ballroom. But you were fine when Obama installed a basketball court and took away the tennis court. People have been fine with renovations to the White House all the way back to 1909 when the Oval Office was originally installed. Since then, we've had tennis courts, bowling alleys, indoor pools, private movie theaters. All of that has been put into the White House. Some of it funded with taxpayer dollars, and nobody cared. Because it's Trump, it's a problem now. Hillary Clinton left the White House with thousands of dollars of White House furniture that it was a federal crime for her to remove from that house, and nobody said a word. Her husband turned the Oval Office into a brothel that needed a black light to be cleaned, but you have a problem with Trump building a ballroom. Make it make sense.
Yeah, amen to that. I like this woman here. She's really spot on with this one here. Good for her. I don't see a name pertaining to this particular young lady, but man, she is really good. Oh, that's pretty funny. Poopy Goldberg. Sometimes the comments below are even more funny than the actual video. And here is a list if you're interested. I guess this is something put together by Groke, talking about several U.S. presidents before Trump oversaw White House renovations, notable examples. And then they going all the way back to 1817, apparently. So nothing unusual. The only thing that is different is it's President Donald Trump doing this. And folks, these people cannot handle it. Here's something I found online, the United Spot. It says, he came in with his wrecking ball. Let's take a peek at this together. I'm going to minimize myself just a little bit more if I can, because I want you to be able to see this. Is pretty funny. Here we go.
So this is the White House. And all the way over here is the White House shed. A 1940s shack where they've been storing typewriters. So I decided to renovate it into a beautiful ballroom. And guess what? I'm paying for it, not the taxpayers.
This is an outrage! The government shut down, peasants are starving, and Trump's building a ballroom in the people's house! This loser needs to be stopped! This is your house, not his!
Hillary's right! There's no funds for bridges, but Trump's got millions of dollars for mirrors and disco balls! Our sacred halls are now ruined! Trump needs to be impeached for this!
I led this nation through chaos, and now Trump's cutting history for a dance floor? For Patriots! We can't even pay park rangers, but Trump's got enough money to destroy the White House? I'll rip up his blueprints myself!
Trump is tearing down a house that was built by slaves. He's destroying everything we've built. Let me be clear. The White House is for hope, not Trump's racist parties. Michelle? She's going to be so upset about this.
Goodness. I believe I have this reposted on my page on X. It's just simply reachjrdukes.com. Feel free to check it out there if you like to see the full video in its entirety. Pretty interesting. All right. Breaking. This is spot on, absolute spot on. Here is a clip. People are digging up a 2010 CNN clip showing Obama's $376 million. So I was wrong at the price that I said earlier. I thought it was 300. It was $376 million that Barack Obama spent to give himself a basketball court. And Donald Trump, of course, is building a very grand ballroom. Free. Again, I'd say free. Reading on, Obama's $376 million White House makeover, all paid by taxpayers. Meanwhile, President Trump's $250 million ballroom is coming out of his own pocket, even if it goes higher to 300, 350. I've heard reports as high as 400 million. I think officially it's supposed to be 250 to 300, but so what? Barack Obama spent $376 of your money and my money, and I don't know. It seems like it's okay when he does it. Spare me this fake outrage. But let's take a peek at this. This is pretty good.
All places to do construction is happening right here, the front lawn of the White House.
Remember, this is from 2010.
It's a 4-year renovation project. Estimated cost, $376 million.
Sounds like they're building another wing to the White House, but we appreciate you keeping your focus.
You can't even imagine, TJ. It's going to happen.
Yeah,
in the next
TJ
3
Home.
years.
Well, that's right. He was
All
on
the
CNN at
banging,
one point.
The jackhammering, the
Or is
dust,
that
the
ABC?
confusion,
I thought it was
noise.
CNN, but either way,
All
you guys
places
get
to
the
do
idea.
Construction is happening right here, the front lawn of the White House. It's a 4-year renovation project.
So the bottom line is this. The legacy media was absolutely glorifying the Barack Obama and his administration for building what amounted to a basketball court. But when it's President Trump, we know how people are with TDS, right, ladies and gentlemen? Absolutely know that. By the way, this reporter, not her, but the TJ, what was it, TJ Holmes or whatever, I think he got booted off ABC, him and Amy, what was her name, Amy Roback or Ryback or something like that. I think they had an affair. Again, just what I heard. I could be wrong, but interesting how time changes, right? How things progress over life. So it is what it is, and what it is people suffering with Trump derangement syndrome. It is a terrible, terrible thing. So let me go ahead and hit the next phase that I want to talk about, and we're going to switch gears right now. We're going to talk about the issue going on with Canada. If you did not get a chance to see yesterday's video, I strongly encourage you to go ahead after we're done with this live stream and watch yesterday's video, because I went somewhat in depth as to exactly why President Trump is so upset with Canada and the fake ad that they ended up running with using selective clips of Ronald Reagan. And what really has outraged me today is not just the people with Trump derangement syndrome. But listen, I love, for example, what's that guy's name? Scott Jennings. He does some work as a commentator on CNN, and he's a pretty conservative guy. He's a pretty good Trump guy, I guess you could call him. But what irritates me, folks, is when these so-called professionals or these talking heads go on these shows. They're supposed to be giving some type of response on behalf of one side, whether they're conservative, whether they're liberal, whatever. They're supposed to give some type of response. Well, apparently, the conservative hosts that they had yesterday, including Scott was one of them. This was yesterday night about 10:15. That was on that Laura Coates program. None mentioned anything about what I was talking about yesterday. And we're going to look at that video here in just a second. The takeaway, they could have simply pulled up the video like I did off of the Ronald Reagan Library Foundation. It's on there. You just type in the date and boom, it pops up and you will see, yes, Ronald Reagan did make the comments that everybody's been talking about, or at least the Canadian government has been talking about, but it is clearly taken out of context. Ronald Reagan did say those statements, but it was more of a like an apology, because what he did in that same speech at the beginning is he said, hey, I am hammering Japan right now with tariffs. I'm clobbering them with tariffs. And right after, it's kind of like the carrot and the stick. So right after hitting Japan with that stick, he was throwing this carrot out. And the carrot is what the Canadian government took and ran with it, and to kind of put it and portray it in what legally is called a false light. And that's the reason why the president is so upset. And that's the reason why even the Ronald Reagan Library is considering litigation against the Canadian government, because it's just wrong. It's false. It's not correct. And at the end of the video, at the end of the speech that Ronald Reagan gave all the way back in 1987, and I know it's hard to believe that the news would lie, but they lied again, because Ronald Reagan closed talking about how important it was for a president to have tariff powers, and that the Congress, even in 1987, was trying to take away his ability to issue tariffs. And he said this cannot be allowed to happen, that the tariff power of the president is very important in order for the president to do his job. It's just that simple. That's outrageous. And I understand that. I understand why President Trump is so mad about the situation. I would be too. Let's take a quick peek at a few of these things here, and then we'll take another quick peek at the video. I think it's going to be, I think there's more to the story. It's not just going to be just a one and done, so to speak. So anyway, let's get into this. Is from NPR today, and as Trump threatens Canada with 10% extra import tax over anti-tariff ads. So today he imposed another 10%. President Trump speaks with reporters aboard Air Force One at Al-Udeid Air Force in Doha, Qatar. All right. Of course, he's overseas again right now aboard Air Force One. President Trump said on Saturday that he plans to hike tariffs on imports of Canadian goods by an extra 10% because of an anti-tariff television ad aired by the province of Ontario. That was I don't know what his title is. Governor. Oh, it's Premier Doug Ford. That's what it is. Ontario Premier Doug Ford. And this is the same dude that had them problems years ago. I can't remember. I think it was a crack cocaine type of scandal that he was embroidered in. And it was a mess. I'll have to look it up. I just know it was juicy and funny to see him squirm and try to get out of that particular problem that he found himself in. It goes on. The ad used the words of former President Ronald Reagan to criticize U.S. tariffs, angering President Trump, who said he would end trade talks with Canada. And back to the Premier, Ontario Premier Doug Ford said he would pull the ad after the weekend, and it ran Friday night during the first game of the World Series. Quote, their advertisement was to be taken down immediately, but they let it run last night during the World Series, knowing that it was a fraud, end quote, Trump said in a post on his Truth Social platform as he flew aboard Air Force One to Malaysia. Bingo. They know it's a fraud. They know Trump is angered, but they didn't care. So Trump said, okay, the HELL with you, we're going to go ahead and we're going to slam you with another 10%. This was the article that we ran with yesterday, talking about how outraged the president was. And again, you have even CNN today still not mentioning what we've been talking about. They just been skewing it and bending it like somehow Donald Trump has just lost touch with reality. I want to take a look at the actual post, and I'll show you this one here. The Ronald Reagan Foundation just announced that Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement, which is fake, featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. The ad was for $75 million. They only did this to interfere with the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court and other courts. Tariffs are very important to national security and economy of the USA based on their egregious behavior. All trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Thank you for your attention to this matter. This, of course, was something that President Trump posted on his Truth social media platform alongside this release from the Ronald Reagan Library. It says the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute learned that the government of Ontario, Canada, created an ad campaign using selective audio and video of President Ronald Reagan delivering his, quote, radio address to the nation on free and fair trade, dated April 25th, 1987. The ad misrepresents the presidential radio address, and the government of Ontario did not seek nor receive permission to use and edit the material, the remarks. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation Institute is reviewing its legal options. Okay, and it encourages everyone to go to their website and look at the video himself. But never fear, ladies and gentlemen, because I took the time to look up that video for you. Here is President Trump's current comments on Truth Social from today. Canada was caught red-handed putting up a fraudulent advertisement on Ronald Reagan's speech on tariffs. The Reagan Foundation said that they, quote, created an ad campaign using selective audio and video of President Ronald Reagan. The ad misrepresents the presidential radio address and did not seek or receive permission to use the remarks. So it goes on. The sole purpose of this fraud was Canada's hope that the United States Supreme Court would come to the rescue. Remember, we talked about this yesterday. Coming up very soon, I think it's something like November 5th, the United States Supreme Court is set to review the president's powers to issue tariffs. And it's very important, ladies and gentlemen, that President Trump win this, not just for President Trump and him being able to continue on with the policies that he has, but for all future presidents. And of course, President Trump is trying to reset the world order, trying to correct it from all the craziness, all the nonsense that's been going on in the world today. It is a tall order, but make no mistake about it, President Trump is thinking 4, 5, 6 moves ahead. And we must always remember, pray for him and his family. As a side note, this is truly a heavy burden that he is bearing on behalf of each and every one of us and our families and our future offsprings to come. Continuing on, it says on tariffs they have used for years to hurt the United States. Say, once again, President Trump is correcting the years and years of abuse the world has been perpetrating against the United States in relation to free and fair trade. Now the United States is able to defend itself against the high and overbearing Canadian tariffs and those from the rest of the world as well. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs for the purpose of national security and the economy. And I think that's an important distinction, ladies and gentlemen. If Ronald Reagan was alive today and he witnessed the last 40 years of abuse that the United States has suffered at the hands of the rest of the world in relation to trade. And by the way, like President Trump says all the time, I don't blame the rest of the world for taking advantage of us. If we're that stupid, if we've been allowing this to go on all this time, hey, just because we let people take advantage of us, don't blame other people for taking advantage of us. It's our own fault. You can't blame other people for that. It's like I said earlier, in relation to yourself, take responsibility for yourself. Take responsibility for your own actions. Well, our country is the same way. When we make bad choices, we have to take responsibility for them bad choices and make them right. I think it's just that simple. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs for the purpose of national security and the economy, but Canada said they didn't. Their advertisement was to be taken down immediately, but they let it run last night during the World Series, knowing that it was a fraud. Ain't that something? I'm sure it was a mistake, right? Yeah, I don't think so. Because of their serious misrepresentation of the facts and hostile act, I am increasing the tariff on Canada by 10% over and above what they are paying now. Thank you for your attention to this matter. How about that, huh? He's not playing around. Okay. Now, we have to go through. I want to just show you a few things in this commercial. Let me check the comments. All right. Anybody that's advertising in the chat, you know how this works. I have to hit the bye-bye button. That's never a fun thing to do. Don't do that. And if anybody's got any questions, I'll get to them here in just a second, rest assured. So let's take a quick peek at this advertisement. Then I want to show one or two comments from Ronald Reagan.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs.
Just remember, this is only a minute, so it's just a very, very highly selective edit.
Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
Okay, that's what he said. Now, take a look at what he actually said. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's only 5 minutes if we did watch the whole thing, but I want to show you the beginning of this. Take a look at the difference, all right? So this is April 25th, 1987, President Reagan's radio address to the nation.
My fellow Americans, Prime Minister Nakasone of Japan will be visiting me here at the White House next week.
See, they didn't include that, right? This is important for context. He has the Prime Minister of Japan coming. Okay, well, tell us more, Mr. President.
It's an important visit because while I expect to take up our relations with our good friend Japan, which overall remain excellent, recent disagreements between our two countries on the issue of trade will also be high on our agenda. As perhaps you've heard, last week I placed new duties on some Japanese products in response to Japan's inability to enforce their trade agreement with us on electronic devices called semiconductors.
Ain't that something? We were not told that. CNN didn't tell us that. Fox News didn't tell us that. At least I didn't hear it. I did not hear it from Scott Jennings. I didn't hear it from anybody. Nobody mentioned this important context. Translation? He said, look, I'm about to meet with the prime minister from Japan. Japan has been screwing the United States over semiconductors. And as a result, I have imposed tariffs on Japan ahead of our meeting. He did exactly what President Trump has done. He's imposed tariffs all over the world for that matter, but he's imposed tariffs on Pacific individuals he's about to meet with, such as the Prime Minister of China, whatever his title is, the head of the Chinese Communist Party there. He is that Xing or Qing, whatever. He's meeting with him, and he has imposed tariffs on China and other people ahead of meetings, exactly what Ronald Reagan did back in 1987. This is important context. Now, from here on out, I'm just going to give you a little taste of it. It's more like an apology. It's more like, listen, I just got done smashing your face in, but I want to let you know that I really don't feel good about it. I don't really think what I did is something I should have done. It's something that should be used only in the most extreme cases. You judge for yourself. Let's listen for a second.
Now, imposing such tariffs or trade barriers and restrictions of any kind are steps that I am loath to take. And in a moment, I'll mention the sound economic reasons for this, that over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. But the Japanese semiconductors were a special case. We had clear evidence that Japanese companies were engaging in unfair trade practices.
How about that? We had to do it because we had clear evidence that Japan was engaging in unfair / deceptive trade practices. That's been nowhere over the national news, ladies and gentlemen, but you heard it here.
That violated an agreement between Japan and the United States. We expect our trading partners to live up to their agreements. As I've often said, our commitment to free trade is also a commitment to fair trade. But you know, in imposing these tariffs, we were just trying to deal with a particular problem, not begin a trade war. So next week, I'll be giving Prime Minister Nakasone this same message.
Okay, here he goes. This is into the commercial. We're gonna click through it just a little bit, but this is what I was talking about. He only gave the soft side of the message without any context whatsoever. This, ladies and gentlemen, is called fraud. In a civil context, for example, if somebody did this to you personally, or they undermined your business, for example, and they took some type of situation, some type of customer complaint, something, they took something and they cashed you in what's called a false light. That's the legal terminology for this type of circumstance that may arise, and quite often it does arise in normal day-to-day life. You can be sued civilly and pay serious damages for this, and that's exactly what Donald Trump is the victim of at the hands of the Canadian government.
We want to continue to work cooperatively on trade problems and want very much to lift these trade restrictions as soon as evidence permits. We want to do this because we feel both Japan and the United States have an obligation to promote the prosperity and economic development that only free trade can bring. Now, that message of free trade is one I conveyed to Canada's leaders a few weeks ago, and it was warmly received there. Indeed,
yeah, just by happenstance, he did mention Canada in this exact speech as kind of like an ancillary type comment.
Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity...
Here we go. This is where he made the commercial. Throughout the world, there's a growing blah, blah, blah.
For all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. Now, there are sound historical reasons for this. For those of us who lived through the Great Depression, the memory of the suffering it
caused. A little bit
caused,
forward here.
the memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity. Now, it hasn't always been easy. There are those in the Congress, just as there were back in the 30s, who want to go for the quick political advantage, who risk America's prosperity for the sake of a short-term appeal to some special interest group, who forget that more than 5 million American jobs are directly tied to the foreign export business, and additional millions are tied to imports.
Let me paraphrase this for you. This, of course, was not in that fake, false light, that false light type of advertisement. This is the president swinging the pendulum back the other way. President Reagan is saying, hey, there's people in Congress right now that are trying to take my power away to administer these tariffs. And make no mistake about it, this is wrong. These tariffs protect thousands of American jobs. What did he just say? 5 or 6 million jobs in America? You have to take it in context. These people lied.
Well, I've never forgotten those jobs. And on trade issues, by and large, we've done well. In certain select cases, like the Japanese semiconductors, we've taken steps to stop unfair practices against American products. But we've still maintained our basic long-term commitment to free trade and economic growth. So, with my meeting with Prime Minister Nakasone and the Venice Economic Summit coming up, it's terribly important not to restrict a president's options in such trade dealings with foreign governments.
Boom.
Unfortunately, some in the Congress are trying to do exactly that. I'll keep you informed on this dangerous legislation because it's just another form of protectionism, and I may need your help to stop it.
Outstanding, ain't it? Isn't it amazing when you hear everything in full context? They're trying to stop me from being able to administer tariffs as they're needed to protect Americans, to protect our economy. We cannot allow this to happen. But you did not see that in that commercial. Clearly an attempt to influence the American public in general. And I'm of the opinion, just like President Trump is, this was clearly another attempt to get to the U.S. Supreme Court ahead of the opening arguments that are scheduled in just a week or two. Outrageous, inappropriate, outrageous. And I can assure you, all of the news agencies, especially MSNBC, of course, they got a new name or something like this now. They are all of the same stripe, saying the same type of nonsense. All right. Now, switching gears one last time here, I want to let everybody know that I am working on a story that I think you're going to want to hear. A lot going on in Venezuela, actually in Venezuela, Colombia. If you are not familiar with something called the Monroe Doctrine, if you don't remember that stuff back from when we were in school, you're going to want to tune in to my next program because I'm going to be talking at length about how, in my opinion, President Trump is trying to reset up the New World Order. We used to call it the Monroe Doctrine. I now think he's going to rewrite it as the Trump Doctrine. There are reports, at least I don't know of any solid reports, that in Venezuela, you actually have Hamas. You have Hamas in Venezuela making drones, making weapons, training. You have the same thing going on with Russia. Allegedly, there are Russian factories there cranking out drones. Can you imagine that? And you have China, like they try to do all over the world, allowing countries such as Venezuela, Colombia, wherever, to basically put all of their resources in debt by giving loans that these countries could and can never pay back. It's really just that simple. And finally, President Trump is saying, I've had enough. It's going to stop. We're not going to allow it. I can assure you of this, that so-called drug war is nonsense. The fact that he says that this is a operation pertaining to drugs and stopping the flow of drugs, that's complete nonsense. Complete nonsense. That war on drugs is a failure. It's been a failure my entire life, and I'm sure you see the truth for what it is just the same way that I do. It's look, if you restrict the drugs coming in, it only makes them more expensive, and more people are willing to take that risk and bring the drugs in some other way. It is a failed war. This drug war is nonsense. So just take it for what it is. It's not about drugs, but it is about America's future. And that's the reason you see President Trump doing what he's doing. I mean, come on. On one hand, you have a Republican Party that is all about life and anti-abortion, and that's fine. I don't like that either. I get it. And then on the other hand, they're blowing boats up that have minimal weapons. If anything, they're just full of drugs. I mean, this has always been in our country a law enforcement type of operation. Now we're just killing people and blowing them up. I mean, Stevie Wonder can see something different is going on here. President Trump is very smart. He's playing chess many moves up. This happened, if you remember, y'all that have a little age on you, maybe remember this. This happened in Panama. What was that? Manuel Noriega. Right now, he's currently in a federal prison serving life. The United States took him out. We literally went into Panama, went down the street, got him, extradited him back to the United States, and boom, that was the end of that. And under the Monroe Doctrine that I was talking about, it has always been the policy of the United States that anything that goes on in our hemisphere, North, South America, is our responsibility. That's just the way it has always been. Unfortunately, folks, over the many, many years, the last 40, 50 years plus, we simply have lost our way. We simply have ran out of backbone, if you will, in order to make sure that our hemisphere is taken care of. I mean, come on, you definitely want to make sure our hemisphere is taken care of. And by the way, when we went in and got Noriega out of Panama, do you know what originally the operation was for? You guessed it, drugs. It was under the premise of drugs. So again, I don't want to give out too much information on this. I want to make sure I got my facts solid before I spew them out. I want to make sure I dissect this every which way I possibly can and show whatever proof I can pertaining to this. But I think what's going on here is you're going to have President Trump removing Maduro out of Venezuela. You're going to also have him going after the guy that is running Colombia right now. If you noticed, that relationship has been going south really, really fast. Again, there are serious concerns that you have Colombia, in addition to Venezuela, cozying up to China, Russia, and potentially other bad actors. And President Trump is not going to allow that to happen. And to that, I can only say, thank God. It's really a very egregious situation. It should never have been allowed, and we have to put a stop to it. I mean, I just think it's pretty well common sense. Y'all agree with me or disagree with me? I'm curious as to how you come down on that one way or the other. Let me turn quickly to any comments. I appreciate everybody's comments today. Lots of comments in the stream, and we appreciate y'all all being here. Rosemarie Fiera, thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure, sweetheart, to have you in the comments here and to have you join our conversation. American Anna, I know President Trump met, yes, he did meet Ronald Reagan. I wonder if they had a chance to have a deep conversation with one another. You know, I got a quick story to tell you about that, American Anna. I'm trying to think where I saw that tape at. Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump did meet a long time ago, back in the late 1980s. And the way I remember the story is Ronald Reagan at that time looked to his wife, Nancy, and said, "Why do I feel like I just met the president of the United States?" That was Ronald Reagan's comment in relation to now President Donald Trump. It's interesting how the Lord works, as the Bible says, in mysterious ways, isn't it? Just interesting. And you're right, American Anna. Free to the American taxpayers for a classy ballroom. Absolutely. And Matt Smith, thanks again for being here. We do appreciate it. Granddad gave us Boomer's Utopia. We got a show. Excellent, excellent comments. I'm just making sure I didn't miss any questions here, that anybody has anything important. So it looks pretty good. I think it's always great to have a lively discussion to make sure we address any comments that anyone may have. So, folks, tonight we took time and we saw exactly what separates us from the woke Dems. The woke left melts down over a ballroom, which is a gift to America, while real patriots, real Americans are out there working, praying, and fighting to restore the nation that we love. President Trump builds and they destroy. He gives back and they cry foul. I mean, come on. Why would they do that? Because every time President Donald John Trump reminds them of what true leadership is, he exposes just how small, how bitter, how broken down their movement is. They're jealous of him, ladies and gentlemen. Because of Donald Trump doing things right and taking care of business, if you will, the woke Dems realize that their ideology is failing. It's not taking root, and God willing, it never will. And now we've got a socialist, a Muslim socialist, aka the Madami guy there in New York. He's on track to run New York. Can you believe this? The same people who've turned New York, which was once great, into a crime-ridden wasteland, they're ready to double down. This is not progress. This is the collapse of prosperity. It's really just the way I see it. But we're not fooled. We see right through the lies. We see right through the fake outrage, and we're not backing down, because this movement, our movement, is built on truth, freedom, and a belief that America's best days are still ahead of us. And I'm sure you share that view with me. I don't see it any other way. The good book in Isaiah 54:17. We sometimes hear sweet Letitia James citing this, but I'm not going to let her have this verse. I'm going to claim it for myself, as I always have. No weapon formed against us shall prosper. Never forget that. No matter what they do, no matter what they bring against us, it's not going to work. And this includes the fake news, the corrupt politician, and every last woke agitator trying to tear our great nation apart. So it's not going to work, and they know it, and that's why they act the way they do. So keep the faith, stay strong, and never forget, we are the majority. We are truth. We stand for truth, and we are the future. I hope that God blesses each and every one of you. May God bless President Donald John Trump, and always may God bless the United States of America. I do appreciate each and every one of you joining me. If you haven't done so already, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe so you're made aware of each and every time a video goes live or I have a regular video to release. It is truly a pleasure that you guys take time to hear what I have to say. It truly humbles me, and I do appreciate it. I like to always say, keep that mind free. Never give up. Until next time, my friends, I am J.R. Duke.